With 20 fresh and exclusive dashcam videos every week, you know we've got the best crashes, smashes, and mad dashes anywhere on the internet. Hold on to your hats, it's about to get bumpy. Miles was on his way home after picking up some fast food when he watched a pickup truck run a red light and get T-boned by an SUV. Miles told us the light was red for around 7 seconds before a white Chevy Silverado drove out in front of a silver Nissan Rogue, where it was hit on the driver's side and spun completely around. He also told us he saw people getting out of their vehicles after the collision and didn't see that anybody had been injured. He left us with this note: "No matter how long your green is, always look both ways for these guys." Alex was driving along with his son Daniel when they watched a pickup turn left across oncoming lanes, T-boning a hatchback. Alex stopped, as did several other witnesses. His dashcam footage does show the white Hyundai driver had a green light seconds before the impact, but sadly, the light is cut off by the video frame when the collision occurs. This makes it unclear who was at fault, depending on if the pickup driver had a protected turn arrow or not. As far as Alex knows, his is the only video footage of the collision that exists, and witnesses disagreed about the facts. Alex wanted us to shout out his son Daniel, who was excited to witness his first vehicle collision so they could send the footage to Wham Bam. Thanks, guys! Andrew admits he was going too fast for his tires and the conditions when his Honda Civic started to slide. When he applied the brakes, they locked up and he lost control before sliding off an on-ramp and 15 feet into a ditch. Amazingly, none of Andrew's airbags deployed and he wasn't hurt in the incident. Eventually, he drove through the grass to get back onto the highway to continue his journey, but his troubles didn't end there. Once he was back on the highway, Andrew noticed his steering wheel wasn't straight. When he got home, he discovered a big chunk of his front bumper cover was missing and his suspension was heavily damaged. All told, Andrew spent $400 on parts and labor plus 2 hours of his own time to get his Civic roadworthy. This submitter was driving one night when he noticed a car turn toward him and drive by with no headlights on, and he told us that was his first clue that something crazy was about to happen. All of a sudden, a car from the left flew into the intersection. When the driver tried to turn in apparent pursuit of the blacked-out vehicle, the driver lost control and slid across the intersection, slamming into an embankment. Our submitter told us this is a high-crime area and he didn't want to become a crime victim, so he didn't stop. A coworker who drove by the scene 10 minutes later told him half a dozen police cars had responded. Yeesh! Bryden was heading back to work after getting his wheels aligned when he stopped at a traffic light, which South Africans call a robot. While waiting, he witnessed a very strange vehicle drive by. That glitch in the Matrix we just saw was a 6-wheeled Mercedes, which Bryden told us is actually a combination of 2 different Mercedes models. Thinking quickly, he took a picture as it drove by. What do you think? Kamaria was driving home from work when a semi-truck made a wide turn across her lane, forcing a pickup driver to go off-road to avoid a collision. The cargo in the pickup's trailer bounced violently as it was pulled over rough terrain, and a couple of items even went flying out of it. The pickup driver pulled over to check on their cargo while Kamaria continued on. Dominic was driving in a morning snowstorm when he watched a Buick driver attempt to turn right before sliding through the snow and colliding with the school bus in front of him. Even though the Buick was going too fast, Dominic told us the bus driver wasn't furious with the Buick driver. Nobody was injured in the collision, but the bus sustained 2 flattened tires and the Buick was severely damaged. After checking on everyone and making sure first responders were on the way, Dominic went on his way, probably headed to see Brian. He wanted to remind everyone that snow is slippery. Nat and her husband were on their way to a restaurant when a driver ahead of them decided to make an illegal U-turn in the middle of the busy street. They were both amused when a police officer right behind the renegade followed them to deliver some instant justice. Remember, going around the block to reach your destination is always faster than getting pulled over. John was on his way to pick up his dog Louie from the groomer when the traffic ahead of him stopped. What happened next probably made him glad he hadn't picked Louie up yet. A 17-year-old driver approaching from behind didn't notice traffic had stopped and slammed into John's Subaru Ascent at full speed. John called 911 and a police officer responded and created a police report. He's still waiting for a repair estimate. He also told us he had just reinstalled his rear camera earlier that day. If you need a dash cam, we put links to our recommendations in the comments, including a model with a rear camera. Angela was on her way home from work when an oncoming minivan turned across her lane, forcing her to a complete stop to avoid T-boning it with her Nissan Altima. Angela slammed on her brakes and laid on her horn while the minivan driver leaned into the turn. She's thankful her brakes were new and she was able to avoid a collision, especially considering she'd been going 45 miles per hour at the time. She's also thankful she had a dash cam since her footage would have proved she had a green light if there had been a collision. She told us everyone should get a dash cam. Fans of our newest channel, Wham Bam Security Cam, might recognize this next one. When Tim's wife slid off the road and destroyed their mailbox, they captured the incident from 3 different angles with their security cams. You'll have to go watch that footage on the Security Cam channel, but it turns out they also have a dash cam in their Ford SUV which captured the carnage from Tim's wife's point of view. Thankfully, she wasn't injured. Tim asked us to shout out Abby and Lorelai, who watch our videos before bedtime, but we already did on the other channel. I guess we just did here too. Whatever. Joshua captured a Tesla behaving badly when it cruised through a traffic light that had been red for several seconds. That Tesla man can't drive. Thankfully, the other drivers were paying attention and all came to a stop to avoid hitting the oblivious Tesla driver, who just made a great case for self-driving cars. Renee watched a Kia turn across another lane without yielding to an oncoming Toyota, causing a head-on collision in the intersection in front of her. Renee gave a copy of her dashcam footage to the Toyota driver, and he later told her that the Kia driver's insurance provider had tried to deny the claim. We're sure he's thankful for the dashcam footage that proves his innocence. Bobby was pulling into a gas station when the driver of a pickup truck nearly hit him head-on. Bobby's dashcam footage reveals the pickup driver had been looking the other way and had his hoodie pulled up, blocking his peripheral vision. Thankfully, he noticed Bobby's Volvo and stopped just in time. Bobby told us he continued to pump his gas, as did the pickup driver, but the guy never acknowledged him or apologized for his error, acting instead like nothing had happened. This emitter was headed to work when the pickup truck ahead of him ran over something, sending sparks flying before an SUV ran it over and launched it at our submitter's Subaru Impreza. Our submitter continued to work, but he took these photos of the damage to his Subaru after he arrived. Ouch! This submitter watched a distracted driver ahead of them start leaving their lane before slamming into an island protecting a bike lane. Our submitter told us the collision seemed minor, so she didn't stop, but the SUV driver did pull over, likely to check for any damage to their vehicle. ST was driving slowly during a Canadian snowstorm when he watched a Honda driver speed past him in the passing lane, and I bet you can probably guess what happened next. The Honda driver lost control before slamming into the side of an Audi SUV. Both drivers managed to pull safely to the side of the highway while ST maneuvered carefully around them before continuing. Akash was driving down a road with a 55-mile-per-hour speed limit when a pickup truck merged in front of him. As he traded places with it, he suddenly encountered an SUV broken down in the middle lane just ahead of him. Thankfully, Akash was able to swerve to the far left lane to avoid rear-ending the stopped SUV. His Ram 1500 Rebel was undamaged, but he told us he drove straight home to change his underwear. Jordan was headed to a restaurant for dinner when he had to slow down for traffic ahead of him. The driver of the Mercedes behind him evidently didn't notice he was slowing down. Both drivers pulled over, but when they assessed the damage, it was so minor that they decided not to exchange information or call the police. Thankfully, nobody was injured in the collision either. This video comes from one of our Platinum Patreon supporters. Dax spotted this 2014 Tesla Model S60 driving down a Texas highway. Can you guess who the owner's favorite sports team is? Everyone knows that decorating your car is the sign of a real fan. That must be why there are Wham Bam decals on Dax's Chevy Volt. Dax wanted to shout out Miguel and told us they watch all the Wham Bam channels together. Remember to go check out the security cam episode featuring Tim's wife knocking over their mailbox. Or if Bobby's close call at the gas station caught your attention, check out this episode when Josh made an unexpected stop at a gas station after getting T-boned.
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.